Hey guys, and welcome back to another edition of our TNCBA tips, tricks, and how-tos. And Kelsey, this week we're talking about my little buddy here that likes to get up there and root around in the rocks.
Cause all kind of
All
chaos.
kinds of chaos and just come out with the biggest girl out of the club in the night. Right here, Squarebill crankbaits, guys. These crankbaits, my biggest fish for the longest time, which came off of Cherokee, she was right around 6.5. Was on a little KVD 1.5 in that chili crawl pattern on a nice sunny day that was warm in the water, starting to creep up there into the upper 50s, you know, getting close to 60. Those girls were thinking about spawning. They had it on their mind. Yeah. And that Squarebill is a dynamite bait to come around cover and deflect. And the biggest thing, guys, that you want to keep in mind with a Squarebill is I want it making contact with something.
Yeah.
We talked about rattle traps or lipless crankbaits last week. I'm not always necessarily worried about that making contact with something because it does have a little bit more of a tendency to get hung up. But with this square bill, and I'm going to show you all the bill here real quick. With that square bill on that bait, it comes over and deflects off cover really, really well. So as it's coming through there, don't be afraid to bang that thing right into some rocks.
Well, and another thing is how it reacts when it hits cover.
Yes.
I mean, that bait will swing way out there, do all kinds of crazy stuff. I mean, it's really impressive what they do.
Impressive. Very, very erratic action. So with the square bill, we're not talking about a lot of depth. When I start to talk about this bait, I'm looking at 5 foot or less.
Yep.
And I'm staying around cover. I'm looking for fish that are starting to move up. They're kind of in that pre-spawn. They're staging in an area that's very close to a spawning flat. You know, we talked about the lipless crankbaits last week and how you're covering a lot of water. But when you get into some of these spawning areas and you're getting into these fish that are staging, you're going to find stumps. You're going to find laydowns on these flats. You're going to find just some isolated rock. And I'm going to have this as kind of my second little 1-2 punch to that lipless crankbait in an area. But Kelsey, I go super, super soft and finessey with a squarebill crankbait. Do you like to go into more of a finessey?
Normally, yes.
As far as rod and stuff goes?
Yeah, I'm normally, I throw it on 10-pound line.
Okay.
I'm using.
You're a brave man.
Yeah, I mean that's what I like. I mean, I like to take chances.
Like a little risk.
But I'm throwing it on a 10-pound line, and I'm throwing it on a slower gear ratio reel. I'm throwing it on a 5-4-1.
Okay.
So I can be in that strike zone a lot longer.
Okay.
And it's not wearing me out. I mean, you're throwing the crankbait all day. I like it for it to dig. It gives it time to dig. It does its thing. And I'm throwing it on a 7-foot medium action rod.
Okay. And I'm doing the same thing as far as the action of rod. My rod, I'm throwing a 6.6, or actually a 6.8, I believe. I'm throwing a 6.8 medium action rod with a moderate tip again, moderate fast tip. And the whole point of that is because this thing is bouncing off of cover and the way it's reacting and stuff, those fish, it's very much a quick reaction bite.
Very much.
So as they're jumping out there and grabbing onto that, you really want that rod just to load in with them before you even know you have them sometimes.
Yeah. And another thing that I've noticed over the years just with getting hung up, things like that, throwing that medium action, moderate, fast rod, a lot of times when you're pulling up against something or whatever, a lot of times if it has that slow reaction, you have a lot less possibility of it getting hooked, getting hung. Yeah. I've just noticed that over the years.
It allows it to react like you said.
Yeah, it gives it time to move around that rock. It doesn't get wedged into it or things like that. So that's another key thing that I like to think about.
So a medium action rod, we both super agree on that. I don't go as brave as Kelsey with the lighter line. I go with 14-pound test line, fluorocarbon. I'm also throwing this on a 6-4-1 gear ratio. Our personalities, even just in fishing, he's more
always slower.
He likes to slow down and stuff. I struggle with that. So I feel like for me, I'm going to reel a little bit quicker. I can slow down that 6-4-1 or get it going extremely fast. Where with the 5-4-1 for me and my personality on the water, I would be out there having to just burn myself up with a 5-4-1 sometimes to
You'd
get
wear your shoulder out every time.
to get it where I want it to be. But like we say, guys, it's all about your personality and what you feel comfortable with. That's why we do these shows together, because he has some input that's different than mine, things that work for him, and I go with a different style just because it works for me. But with the crankbaits and with the colors, it's very similar to what we talked about with the lipless crankbaits. I'm going to have a crawl pattern. I'm going to have a shad pattern. Now later on, right now I'm fully focused on either shad or crawfish, but I will pull out a bluegill pattern as we get into May, early June. This squarebill crankbait still plays, but right now I'm thinking crawfish, I'm thinking shad, so I might be throwing a chartreuse sexy shad, or we have here with us, we have that chartreuse and black back. Those are some great colors in this time of season because oftentimes you have a lot of volatility with the weather and with the water color, water levels. So you definitely want to make sure that you have a good gamut of colors on depending on whatever you're fishing, because right now you might be on one end of the lake and it's super clear. You may run to another end of the lake and it is.
We're seeing it now.
Yeah, we're seeing it right now here. And it's chocolate milk. And you just have a lot of different things that are going on. But with this bait, like we've just talked about, I want to be making contact with something. I want it to be working around, erratic. I want it deflecting off of. So for squarebill crankbaits, and to help you have the greatest success, a very limber rod, medium action, moderate fast tip, something that's going to give very well. Let it work, like Kelsey said, around all this different cover. I still will get even on, if I feel like there's some fish still way behind in the pre-spawn, I'll throw it on bluff ends.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care. Just get super tight to the bluff.
Yeah. And that was one thing I was going to say, especially when you are working around cover. Use that rod. Use it to direct your bait.
Yeah.
If you're throwing down timber, whatever, use that rod. Point it towards the cover.
Work both
Make
sides.
it work. Make it work its way through that cover.
And you're wanting to make sure you're hitting every aspect, like he's talking about working around. If I'm coming to a stump, I don't want to make one pass past that stump. I want to throw this squarebill on the right and bring it around. I want to bring this squarebill on the left and bring it around. And as I said, I want it coming through and I want it to hit and deflect right and then hit once and deflect left, because that's going to get that fish to react. She's sitting there. She's waiting to move up on a bed that a buck is up there fanning out for or guarding. So you make her react with that. So that moderate action rod is going to help you do that. Some line, some fluorocarbon, definitely not monofilament. That fluorocarbon is going to be much more abrasion resistant. And then depending on you and how you want to work that bait, the low speed reel to moderate speed. I know there's some guys out there that throw it on a fast retrieve, but I feel like the moderate or slower is a perfect situation for working this crankbait around and trying to catch some of those big pre-spawn girls that are staging up on a stump, a laydown, or some rocky cover. So guys, it's always been one of my favorites. A squarebill will always be in my tackle box this time of year and on one of my rods, because I know that the big girls are coming up and it catches them all the time, every year this time of year. So Kelsey, you got anything else for us on the squarebill crankbaits?
Go buy you some and get out there and throw them.
Get out there, guys. There's plenty of different sizes now. There's silent, there's rattling, there's all different kinds. The squarebill is a very dynamic bait that has a lot of potential around cover in the pre-spawn. We'll see you on the next TNCBA tips, tricks, and how-tos.
Take care.